Hi.
Hi. Hi, welcome.
So we're here now. We're going to answer a question from Mr. Warbucks. He asked us to share our testimonies of me going to a Korean church and her going to a black church. And so I'm going to start with my testimony of going to a Korean church in Queens, New York. I don't know why we were over there. We were in Astoria. And why were we in the neighborhood? And
Looking for
doctor's appointment. No.
Oh, no, yeah, doctor's appointment
Yeah,
for our second baby.
Yeah, there was, or a maternity, prenatal appointment or something.
Yes.
And there was near this little doctor's office was a church, and I saw it was a Korean church, obviously, because it had Korean writing on it. It was a old American church, but then the Koreans are now using it. And there was a lady who came out, and I thought, oh, my wife might want to talk to you, because we were going to a church in Astoria at the time, but we were looking to transition, and I thought, I don't know, maybe it's Korean. My wife's Korean. Here we go. And so I talked to a lady. Let me talk to her. I introduced them, or I connected them, and then somehow we started going to the church.
Mm-hmm. The funny story about that day, we were just passing by and we saw the church, but one lady was in the parking lot, and Corey walked up to her, and I was like 5 months pregnant with our second baby. And when Corey walked toward the parking lot, she saw you, and I still remember her name and everything. I probably still have her number. She looked at you and she started walking backward to her car, or anybody's car. She started walking. Remember?
No.
You don't remember? So she started walking backward, and as soon as I saw an elderly Korean woman in her maybe, I don't know, I don't want to be rude, but probably at least 60s or 70s, late 60s, 70s. And when I saw her, my tummy was too heavy to run toward them and just intervene or just help out. But by the time I ran really fast, so I still ran. By the time I got there, her butt was touching the car, and her hands are in the car like this, and she was like this, and Corey just was doing this. No, like, you have to remember this. He was just like, no, my wife, oh, like this. And she just, 알겠어요. 네, 안녕하세요. And then she started talking to me. Until then, she didn't even say a hi to you, because she's never seen a black man approaching her that close in a Korean church parking lot. And we talked about it later when we were eating. Because Korean church, every Sunday, we always had this like meal together after service. Yeah, so that day was a shocking, crazy day. She said she doesn't.
I would have not known. I mean,
I told you this.
Yeah, but in real time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you were.
And so it was a Methodist church, and so
United Methodist Church.
And it was a little shocking because I couldn't understand anything that was going on. We went there for maybe 6 months. Remy, more. It was a secondary church, right? We were still going.
Right, we were going in and out of our previous church, and we were still going there for 6 months. But after the 6 months, about 6-7 months, just exclusively.
Yeah, Remy was translating the sermons from English to Korean.
Spontaneous translating, hearing and speaking at the same time.
Oh, her finger. And yeah, everyone seemed welcome to me. I mean, Remy could probably tell you. I'm sure they maybe thought
they were so happy.
They were not rude to my face, but I'm sure they may talk amongst themselves.
Just curious. They asked a lot of questions.
So shocking. It was a homogenous church. People, who stick amongst themselves. If you live in America and you go to a church that's all Korean, you probably are only around Koreans. All your friends are Korean. And so me coming in was probably shocking to them. But, there was lunch after, which was pretty interesting. Always fellowship. I thought that the worship was really good for it to be a Methodist church, whatever that means. There was it wasn't like skilled musically, but the Spirit of the Lord really moved. I remember, because I'm really into worship, so I remember just, like standing there with my hands up, just an open posture of worship. And I just remember just feeling the presence of God there. And so that was a good experience. Always willing to help us out, good servants of people. Like, it was a good pastoring church for us. They pastored us pastored us well there, I thought.
Because
Yeah.
they had one lay pastor who's always helping out, and he spoke good English. Him and his wife also, both of them spoke good English.
Yeah, there was an English service, maybe 5 of us there on like at 2 o'clock in the afternoon after. So they had the morning Korean service. Then we would go back to eat and fellowship. And then after about an hour, there was a lay pastor who had a little English service. And Remy was on a little worship team, just 3 of you up there with your guitar. And that was just a good teaching moment. It really wasn't anything maybe spirit-filled in the sense where we are spirit-filled, tongue-talking Christians now. It wasn't any of that, but it was good teaching and good fellowship. And the only thing, it was just a Methodist church, and we're really not into the denominations. We're very much non-denominational, spirit-filled churches, maybe in the spirit of charismatic Pentecostalism, but overall, we just want to tear down denominations and any
Not tear
divisions.
down the denomination. We
Any
love
divisions. I mean,
divisions.
not tear down is a bad word, but we don't like the denominations.
We
just
love it in a sense that it's such a good protection and financial accountability, and
Okay,
just
you love it.
pastoring the pastors. We like that in that aspect. Helping out each other, volunteering, sending the people out there. You know, there's some people, they pull people to different locations to just thrive, let them thrive. But when it comes down to like politics and games and back talking, or, you know, it's just like any families, they're like a big extended family. So we've seen a lot of it, and that's why we don't like it. But we respect and we love it in a sense also.
Yeah.
So what did you like a lot about the Korean church and the congregants?
Some of the people were nice.
Mm-hmm.
The ones who spoke English, you know, if they couldn't speak English, you know, there were nice nods.
Mm-hmm. They nod, saying hi, 안녕하세요, like
Yeah,
that.
and the fellowship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what about the things that you didn't like about?
You know, the lack of English that was spoken.
So only the language barrier.
The language barrier.
As far as the culture, you're fine.
Yeah, because I wasn't really introduced into spirit-filled worship, spirit-filled environment at that time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I had been, then it would have been like, oh, I can't do this. They're not doing enough for me, or they're not you know, not really doing, but the presence, I just don't feel it in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, as a wife of a black man going to the Korean church, but I wasn't just a member or just a visitor. I was actually a translator there. So people did say thank you to me a lot, and they liked me, and they always packed some Korean 밑반찬 to me. 밑반찬 means that's the banchan, or the side dish that you always have in the refrigerator in case you want to eat anything at any time. So that's 밑반찬, baseline food. So they would always give us some, you know, remember, like side dish style Korean food. Come on. And I like that, but I remember one guy, one of the 장로님 or deacons, one of the 장로nims told me that, oh, Corey should come every Sunday instead of coming sporadically, because in the children's ministry, there's you know, sometimes he gets a little, not bullied, but he does get some comments. And I didn't think too much about it, but one day I witnessed one of the adults saying racial slurs to my son, my first one. He was only, 4 or 5 at that time. He was 2 and 3, I think. 2 years old and turned 3. He was 3. I was pregnant with my second baby at that time, and we had the baby, and when the baby was like 6 months, we stopped going there. So when I witnessed that, that man, remember I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So that guy was shocked that I saw it, and I told him, come here, and he came. He's 6'4", tall.
Not that tall.
No?
6'2".
But with the Korean shoes, he was 6'4". The Korean dress shoes. So he's 6'4", worked out, but lean, slender, yet he's actually towering over. And I just called him, come over right here. And I talked to him in Korean. I told him, 앞으로 그렇게 하지 마세요. Don't do it again. I saw everything. What made you do that? Whatever it is, don't do it again. And then he just looked at me and he just walked away. And he never talked to me again. But I'm sure in hindsight, Silas, our firstborn son is pretty, sometimes too, he gets like very tenacious when he plays. So sometimes it looks like he bullies his daughter. I don't know what he did, but still, racial slur is not okay. And I know, but it's probably like half and half. I wasn't really there. I just heard it. I heard it behind the door and I opened the door. That's what happened in the children's ministry. I heard it. I heard him screaming, Silas, blah, 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 Silas. I was shocked and I didn't open the door right away. And I heard the whole repertoire of maybe like a minute and then I opened. And then they were just so shocked. How much of that did you hear? I said, I heard everything. Get out. Let me talk to you. That, or sometimes, people just ask me, what happened? Why? How? But they mean well, like your uncles. Remy, oh.
I bet you like a lot of rice.
Yeah, or you into black culture? No, I'm not really. But they thought you're really into Korean culture, but you're not really. You don't know anything. They're disappointed. So there are things that's really cute and little things that I don't take anything personally. Even the racial slur, I don't take it personally. I probably did at that time, but come on, like they don't know a lot of people like us, so they don't know how to go about it. So the situation happens and they just spit it out and I just said it already. Probably they regret it maybe. So so it's okay. So a lot of times Corey and I would argue about certain things and I have to explain it to him and I have to clarify. So I remember it was a good time. Did you like that time?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's it. So and we'll come back with another video. We never really attended a black church, but we did attend
Trinidadian church. Islanders.
West Indian church.
West Indian church.
And
Trinidad is what?
West Indian.
Not Islanders?
Same, but yeah. And so we will discuss our experience there for her. Because I was comfortable, used to it, because it was sort of like in the tradition of the black church.
It was not really American black, but they were
They were black people.
But
and it was sort of in the tradition of
yeah, more black American than white Americans, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But then totally different from black Americans. Closer
totally
to black
different.
than white, but they're a little different. Because they're not blacks. They're islanders. They're probably some...
No, they're Indian culture and blacks.
Okay.
People from there, we'll talk about it. All right?